I would like to first and foremost excuse anything that sounds off in this video. Not in terms of the audio, but in terms of what I am actually saying. I am experiencing what is basically a hangover, and it is kind of fogging up my brain. But there were a couple things that I really wanted to stress and I really wanted to get out before they kind of left my brain and they left my thoughts. I wanted to discuss this channel and what I think exactly it is. I need to address it properly. I don't necessarily have a goal thus far for what this channel is. I guess I can't really just say I put videos out here for nobody. I mean, I do intend for people to watch these at the end of the day. Like that's one of the things that I would like there to be some kind of discourse over the things I say. Maybe that's foolish. Maybe I don't have anything to say at all. And I think that's quite likely. But I think what even is more likely is that I am experiencing my ego. I am experiencing some inner me that wishes and desires for more, even if there is not necessarily an end goal in sight. Greed, perhaps, maybe pride. A mix of both. I'm not too certain. But something in me wants me to be famous, I guess. Wants me to be well liked, well looked at by my peers. I want people in my daily life that I don't know to know who I am. And I don't know if this is me being an insensitive or just a weird fucking guy, right? Like, if this is just me being a weirdo, like, that's one thing, that's fine. I'm not necessarily hurting anybody. But I don't think that this is something that's limited to only me. I feel like a lot of people experience this kind of existence. They experience life with some kind of grand goal in mind. But that goal isn't necessarily something that they even know. And there's something inside of us, most certainly, that is pushing us towards that. So, I guess addressing that to me, I needed to really come up with a reason as to why I made this channel. And I wanted to start, I guess, kind of by saying that I made it for myself. Because that's, at the end of the day, what this is for. This is for me. I do make these videos to look back at and to rewatch and re-listen to what I had to say. Affirm myself and disagree, or even sometimes I sometimes make fun of my own videos, like in daily conversation. And so there is a certain aspect of this channel that is very much something that I do because I want to do it. And because I want to do this just for me. But I don't necessarily want this to be solely my experience, if that makes sense. I do want to discuss things with other people, and I would like to explore, I guess, more topics and more games and anime and other things that I find, music, stuff that inspires me. I do want to have discourse with other people about these things, and I don't know if YouTube is necessarily the right place for that, but I feel like this is a good place to start. It's at least a good place to be for right now. We can't really be certain of the future, but we can be certain of what's right in front of us most of the time, half the time. And I think that this is something that not only applies here, but is correct here. That being said, I've been considering making a Discord. And if I do, I will obviously make a video and discuss it, but if that's something that people would be interested in, leave a comment below. Let me know. And I can do that, and I guess I know like a lot of my viewer base is pretty spread apart and from all over the internet and all over the globe. So if you guys would like to, I guess, be in one spot, let me know, and I guess I can do that. Another thing I kind of want to discuss was my own comfortability in my life. I'm at this point where I've kind of realized how much I've been taking for granted growing up. As a kid, there was a lot I didn't understand. And that's a part of life. You can't really expect a child to understand all the intricacies of banking and global politics. Not as much as, I guess, you can expect Joe Schmo at the guest or to know anything. So but I feel like I've gone to be too comfortable living where I am. There's a lot of things that I used to take for granted, but now that I see them, I realize that there are still things that I take for granted. And I never stopped taking things for granted. There was never this point where I could look back on and say, yes, I was taking things for granted then. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't think I've ever had a point in my life where I could necessarily say that and be completely honest with myself. And I don't think that that's something that most people could say. A big part of who I am is being genuine and expressing the truest self, philosophically, morally, mentally, even physically, through art, through music, through writing, through dance, through singing. And this genuinity that I have, or that I aspire to have, is something that I struggle with a lot. Because I look around my life and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that these things are going on. But at the same time, another part of me is saying that I should not necessarily be comfortable. I should not have this concept. These things that are going on that are fine, they're not fine. They are very much danger. They're bad. Do not go in. And I don't understand why I constantly get these flares just from being myself, just from being comfortable with who I am. And again, I think that might be the ego. But I think oftentimes we grow very comfortable with ourselves. We grow, and a part of growing is placing roots somewhere. Very often, we neglect the place that we place our roots, or the place where our roots were planted for us. And when you do that, the entire foundation of the plant will struggle. But we often neglect these small things in our lives. Well, they seem small, but in fact, they're large. Something like comfortability. It's hard to say that that's a bad thing. It's hard to say that reaching a point in one's life where you can say, yes, I am more than okay with stopping where I am right now. This is enough for me. I can't do any more. I don't want to do any more. Right now, this is all I can. This is all I am. That is something that we should want. Yet I constantly strive, every time I fall into that mindset, to grow out of it. I constantly try and become more than comfortable. And I wonder if that curiosity is more a part of who I am, or more a part of the human spirit and what people are. I think for a long time I've used myself as the average. I am the average person. You wouldn't really find somebody more or less remarkable as me walking down the street, per se. I'm not somebody that would necessarily catch your eye. I'm not somebody that would necessarily stand out. And that's fine. But I want to stand out. I want to be more. And that can be a scary thing in and of itself. I want to be more, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what this more that I want to be is. Maybe more profoundly, I don't know where this is going to lead me. Should I be content with where I am and focus only on my hobbies and things that I enjoy, or should I strive to do more and work harder and expend my own body and mind further than what it currently is being further than what it is being spent on? I wonder if there is an ultimate goal that I'm trying to reach. I wonder if I'll ever know what that is. I like to imagine that I have all the answers, or that I somehow should know what's going on at all the time. I mean, I have access to the internet. I have access to information constantly, more and more information. but I really don't know much, and I learn more every day. Every day I go out. Let's just say I go to Waffle House or something. Let's just say I go down to the pub, or I go down to I guess Polito's. I don't necessarily do anything that would make me stand out, yet the atmosphere that you can find in these places are often things that attract me, and I should have put more thought into making this video, but I really just kind of wanted to make something, anything. I really just wanted to get some of these things that I've been tackling out of my head. And I've wanted somebody else to listen to them, maybe. I want to share the experience with which is life. Not necessarily the experience with which is life. But the thoughts, the culmination of ideas, the very essence of human soul and consciousness, I want to portray that as much as I can. And I want to really understand what human beings are. There's so many people in the world, and they are all so different and unique. Yeah, you can stereotype people, you can group people together and say that these certain people act this way because of X, Y, and Z. But really what you're doing is you're marginalizing people without necessarily listening to what they have to say or necessarily understanding their experience, their life. And that's dangerous. I think really grouping people together like that, I think, is very dangerous. Because when you marginalize any one person, then you might as well marginalize everybody. And if you marginalize everybody, then not only is nobody going to win, nobody is going to be greater than another, but everyone will have this sense of shame in your eyes. Everyone will be a part of something that isn't what you are or what you strive to be. Everyone is just inadequate. And that's dangerous to think. But more and more people are thinking like that every day. More and more people are being split apart, both economically, with what is currently happening in COVID, philosophically, over things like Black Lives Matter, the LGBT things that have been going on these past year. And in things like news media, you especially see it. people are growing more and more divided every day. But the people that are being divided or being divisive aren't all that different. In fact, they're very similar. Merely their ideals, the things with which they look up to, or the things with which they think is better for the world, is different. And now, 1,000 years ago, we could start a war over it. Today, a war is not necessarily such a good idea. We need to overcome obstacles in a way that we never had to before. Ideals need to clash in a way that is innovative, is modern, and is forward-thinking. And it needs to be as innovative as the ideas themselves. Our discourse needs to change. We need to take these groups. We need to really analyze what they are to us. And I will use the left and the right here, Republicans and Democrats, because they're the easiest to pick at, and everybody's a loser that way. And that's more fitting, because everybody is a loser. Republicans on one side think that the economy, in a grander sense, is the most important thing for a government and for its people. That is the very basis of the Republican ideal. Something based off of a socio-economical ground, akin to the way that we have always done it. You can often take this idea of conservatism and apply it to past thinking ideologies. However, Democrats are the exact opposite. When you look at what they are, just merely by the definition, they are people that are forward-thinking, they are progressive. That is the ideal, is it not? Well, most of the time. But sometimes the Democrats push it too far. There are ideals that should not be normalized. There are things that should not necessarily be common. For example, maps. I'm not going to describe what they are to you, and I hope that you don't ever look them up. Well, if you do, I hope that you have a nice wrench with you and are looking to go bust some heads in. But people like that are trying to normalize things like that. And that is a progressive mindset. The same arguments that are being used to defend that are being used to defend gay rights. And I'm not saying like the exact same arguments. But the idea that it is a sexuality, it is a preference, it is not something to be necessarily judged for. That is a progressive mindset, and that is pushing it too far. That is taking progressivism too far. There needs to be a balance between what we want and what we should be. Oftentimes, there needs to be a balance in everything in our lives. To be completely frank, you should always have balance. Everything that happens in the world has an equal and counteractive action. Every force will be continued. Every force will gain momentum until it naturally declines. And that natural declination in our lives would be death. But until then, we can remain in balance, and we can remain on this line, this grand quest of who we want to be is not something that we should be scared of. It's something that we should take a look at and acknowledge and say, I don't know where I want to go. I don't know who I want to be. But I will eventually. And I'm going to do everything I can right now to fight for it and to strive to be that. Because ultimately, that's who I want to be. My philosophies, of course, are very biased. I grew up in a very almost cushy lifestyle. In fact, a lot of the things that I've done that other people would consider impressive, I hardly consider at all. I don't think that any of my feats can be attributed to my character. I feel like most of them were just, I was there at the right time in the right place. I don't know if there's anything that sets me apart. I don't know if there's anything that makes me special other than the experience with which I live. And that's intimidating. That's intimidating, but it's something we have to encounter. And it's something we have to accept, and it's something that ultimately, while it's a part of us, is not all that we are. Human beings are constantly changing and constantly growing. That's what makes us unique. Our adaptability knows no bounds. And while these ideals with which 100 years ago we would have fought a war over, today I believe we can fight them through words and through discourse. And I feel that under the right circumstances, with the right person stepping in at the right time in the right place, very quickly all of this discourse could at least be drawn in together. Could at least be, instead of this grand open idea where there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of hatred and hostility, we can enclose that, encapsulate it into something with which there is much less rebound. There's much less hostility that is able to escape. Because when hostility, I find, when people are hostile towards you, oftentimes is because they can't rationalize something about themselves. Most of the time, people don't necessarily want to hurt other people. This is just how most people are. This is a normal human emotion. I'm sorry if this all has really just been like a sprawl about literally nothing. And if you've just wasted like, I don't know, 30 minutes listening to me dribble on about literally nothing and everything all at once. I appreciate your time here. If you could leave a like, uh, I would appreciate it. Comment below. Subscribe if not. And of course, let me know in the comments, I guess, if anybody would be interested in a Discord. Thank you, and peace out.